This is KGW News at noon.
We begin this afternoon with breaking news in the sports world. The Oregon Ducks and Washington Huskies are on the verge of leaving the Pac-12. Thanks for joining us here at noon. I'm Drew Carney. So here's what we know at this point. Multiple reports say both Oregon and Washington have informed the other schools in the Pac-12 conference that they're leaving to join the Big Ten. And a Big Ten vote to accept the schools as new members could happen later today. Just last year, fellow Pac-12 members USC and UCLA announced that they were heading to the Big Ten. So today's news means the Ducks, Huskies, Bruins, and Trojans would all start play in the Big Ten next year in time for the 2024 college football season. The move makes sense. Dollars and cents, and lots of it, because a richer TV contract and more media money is available by switching conferences. We'll have more information about this, the impact of the move, all of that at KGW.com. And of course, we'll continue to follow this developing story throughout the day, both here on TV and online. All right, let's take a look at some other local headlines that are developing here at noon. We start with someone vandalizing the Lansu Chinese Garden in Old Town Portland overnight, just one day before the start of the garden's Chinese festival. Staff members say they found a broken window in the tea house this morning and pieces of granite all around the property. It appears the granite was broken off the lion statue that sits at the entry to Portland's Chinatown neighborhood. The garden's director says she believes this was a hate crime targeting the Chinese community. Meanwhile, Oregon Governor Tina Kotek has just signed the Pump Your Own Gas bill into law. So individual gas stations now have the option to let people pump their own gas, although they're not required to offer that option. And even if they do allow self-serve, gas stations still need to keep some of their pumps set aside for full service. A woman and family pet both died after a car crashed into a home in Vancouver last night. This happened at 4th Plain Boulevard and Fruit Valley Road. The woman was inside the home at the time. The driver of the car wound up going to the hospital, but they are expected to survive. Once they're out of the hospital, that driver faces multiple charges, including DUI and vehicular homicide. Last headline here, the Oregon State Fire Marshal is sending more firefighters from around the area to Central Oregon today to prepare for the possibility of more wildfires. Most of Central and Eastern Oregon is under a red flag warning at this point, meaning there's an increased risk for wildfires there. 2 task forces from Clatsop and Washington counties are heading to Jefferson County and will stay there for at least the next 3 days. And that's a look at some of this afternoon's local headlines. All right, let's bring meteorologist Chris McGinnis into the picture now. So, Chris, I know you're talking about those red flag conditions, and you also have a look at our weekend forecast.
Yeah, and thunderstorm potential is what's driving that concern, right? That increased fire concern across the fire start concern from the Central Oregon Cascades and then in points east. Obviously, this area of the state has been very, very dry. Ironically, that was a part of the state that actually got some rain this morning. Radar right now continuing to show some showers across Jefferson, Wasco County, Wheeler County. That's all good news, right? Haven't had much lightning with these, but as we zoom out a little bit and put this into motion over the last 3 hours, we are just now starting to see what we thought we would see about this time, which is thunderstorm development. And with thunderstorms, you get lightning, which brings the potential for fire starts across Douglas County, Jackson, and also Klamath County. These will continue to develop and push north through the day, and Futurecast bears that out. Thunderstorms really beginning to pop here this afternoon across portions of Central and Eastern Oregon from a line from about Bend to Burns, and then that line will shift northward throughout the day. You'll note Northwest Oregon generally high and dry, but it's interesting with the cloud cover that we had this morning, the temperature gradient across the region. We're 69 in Camas and Happy Valley. We hop out to Forest Grove. It's almost 10 degrees warmer where the sun has been out for most of the morning, right? It's 75 right now in Kaiser, 73 Salem. And last check at the airport right now, we're 73. I think the clouds thin out enough that, Drew, we're on our way to highs in the upper 80s or low 90s this afternoon with more sunshine. Your weekend forecast comes up in just a few.
All right, we'll check back in with Chris here in about 10 minutes. We're also following new developments in the case of a man officials say kidnapped a Seattle woman and locked her in a cinder block cell at his home in Klamath Falls. According to court records, Nagasi Zuberi also allegedly attacked, abused, and threatened to kill another woman before she sought a protective order against him 3 years ago. The restraining order, filed in California in 2020, stated that Zuberi had 2 children with the woman. Zuberi has lived in 10 states in the last 10 years, including some time living here locally in Clark County. We had a chance to talk to some of his former neighbors there.
He did make some threats towards me that he was going to stab me or kill me if he catches me outside somewhere.
In addition to the recent Klamath Falls kidnapping, detectives say they've tied Zuberi to 3 more sexual assaults in other states and believe there could be even more. 2 American sailors have been arrested for spying on the U.S. for China. The indictments against them allege both men traded sensitive U.S. military information in exchange for thousands of dollars. NBC's Miguel Almaguer brings us more from California.
This is the naval base where one of those accused spies was serving before he was arrested. He faces up to 20 years in prison. The second sailor faces up to life in prison. Authorities say as of right now, there's no clear indication they were working together.
2 American sailors charged with passing sensitive intelligence to China in exchange for money. The Department of Justice and FBI announcing their arrests.
When a soldier or sailor chooses cash over country and hands over national defense information in an ultimate act of betrayal, we have to be ready to act.
22-year-old Jin Xiao Wei, a naturalized U.S. citizen, was a sailor on the amphibious assault ship, the USS Essex.
Wei sent national defense information to China, including documents, photos, videos, and technical manuals. In exchange, his intelligence officer paid Wei thousands of dollars.
Wei has been charged under the Espionage Act, which carries a life sentence, his attorney entering a not guilty plea on his behalf. Also arrested in a separate case of espionage, 26-year-old Wenheng Zhao, the petty officer working at a naval base in Ventura County, California, pleading not guilty in federal court. Officials say Zhao gave non-public intel to a Chinese intelligence officer for almost 2 years, passing along operational plans for military exercises, photographs and blueprints of a radar system on a U.S. military base in Okinawa, Japan, and details about the Navy's operations at his home base and on San Clemente Island. In exchange, they allege a Chinese operative paid Zhao about $15,000.
Mr. Zhao chose a path of corruption.
Officials say the charges were part of a broader strategy by the U.S. to counter China's criminal efforts to steal its sensitive information.
The scheme alleged here is just one more example of the People's Republic of China's ongoing and brazen campaign to target U.S. officials with access to sensitive military secrets.
Both sailors remain in custody and are expected back in court in the coming week. Shortly after that, in federal court, their trials are expected to begin.